just laughing because he got beat up so bad. He got beat up so bad. Sorry, I'm just laughing. He got beat up so bad. Sorry, I'm just laughing.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay where we're covering today's top boxing news.
Boy, I'll tell you, if Deontay Wilder didn't want to fight Dillian Whyte before, that interview via Sky Sports, that might actually give him some incentive.
It might.
But alas, we've got to try to cover some of the other boxing news that's floating around. We do. I mean, we've been talking about Deontay Wilder quite a bit. So let's just see what else is going on in the world of boxing. And it appears that Sergey Kovalev is still unable to kick the habit.
He's drunk.
This guy still can't put the bottle down. Apparently, early yesterday morning, he was arrested at about 2 a.m. and was believed to be driving whilst under the influence. And this isn't the first time that things have gone sideways for Sergey while he was behind the wheel under the influence. I vaguely recall he had an accident. I think he ended up in a ravine 1 or 2 years ago, drinking then as he was drinking here. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep if they threw the book at this guy. You see, as a motorist who's often traveling with my children, I take particular offense to drunk drivers because you can be the perfect driver, you know? You can do the limit and signal and all that jazz.
Be a good motorist.
All it takes is for some other asshole to do something stupid and things could go sideways for a lot of people, okay? The road is no place to play. The road is no place to take liberties. So when I see that Sergey is still
fucking around,
getting in trouble for this stuff, you know, don't feel the least bit sorry for him. Bear in mind, he's still in the midst of a legal battle with that Jamie Foxx lady, the one who's alleging that he assaulted her after she rejected his sexual advances. He's still got that fucking shit to deal with. I don't know, I guess Sergey is trying to multitask, you know, deal with that while he wraps his car around a little tree or something along those lines. I mean, this is a situation where I just don't feel sorry for the guy.
At all.
And if Sergey Kovalev didn't think enough of his career to kick the habit and put down the bottle, that he's still here today doing the exact same things that costed him yesterday, and he seems to be in a downward spiral, perhaps it would be best to remove this individual from society. Because if he's not allegedly assaulting females, he's endangering oncoming motorists with his own bad habits.
The fuck, bro?
You know, this ain't like picking your nose and wiping it on the wall.
Who does that?
Or, leaving a toilet seat up. You know, Sergey Kovalev's brand of bad habits don't just put him in danger, but other oncoming motorists as well. And it seems that for all his talk of finding himself in that monastery somewhere over there in Russia or Greece, I forget where it was, but for all that talk of turning over a new leaf, Sergey hasn't changed. Doesn't appear that he's going to either. You know, Sergey's got a nice wife. She's a good-looking lady. He's got a kid to raise. He's got some time left on his career to make some millions, you know, some money that he can retire on. He just had that very lucrative payday from Canelo Alvarez. This is a guy with something to live for, you understand. And it doesn't seem to matter.
Not to him.
At least not enough that he can right his wrongs and you know, just control yourself. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with drinking so much as where you do it, and that's your problem, you know? That's your problem.
That's it.
You want to drink yourself into a stupor? Go ahead, you know? Just do it in your house. I mean, you got enough money. You know, get yourself a hotel room if it's not safe for you to drive or something. The basic idea here is that the irresponsibility that he is exhibiting is dangerous enough and reckless enough that something really does need to be done about it. And that if they don't get him for that whole Jamie Foxx fiasco, you know, he might beat that case, he might not. We'll see. It kind of seems like it's his word against hers. But even if they don't get him for that, there still needs to be something done about this. Because this guy He's got enough money that he can check himself into a Betty Ford Center, rehabilitate himself, but he just keeps repeating the same self-destructive pattern, the same downward spiral. And if you don't give enough of a fuck about your own life, that doesn't make it okay for you to endanger anybody else's. I don't know. Let's just see what happens with this guy, man. But something needs to be done. In lightweight news, Bill Haney, the father of Devin Haney, had this to say. He says, Devin can't get fights at 135. We're going to 140 for Mikey Garcia. He's quoted as saying, let me make an announcement. We can't get no fights at 135 from nobody. We will be going to 140. Bernard Hopkins reminded Haney that his son could drop back down from 140 pounds to 135 when the time is right to fight Garcia, as in Ryan Garcia. Oh, all the time, Elder Haney replied. But we're going to go up to 140 and we'll come back down when they are ready. So what do I think about this announcement? What do I think about this news?
Well,
I don't know how I feel about Devin Haney going up to 140 here and now. I don't know. I feel that the 140-pound division, in retrospect, with the 135-pound division, consists of more mature-rated and seasoned fighters, more so than 135. At 135, you got a lot of young, strong fighters, and fighters that could move into 135 that are young, strong fighters that are still making names for themselves the same way that Devin is still making a name for himself. Essentially,
you should stay put.
I feel it's a better division for a guy in Devin Haney's shoes. Whereas at 140, the guys are more mature-rated. Former champions, top contenders, guys that have been around the block. Your Victor Postals, your Ivan Bedenchik.
Kirill Rillis.
Even Rancis Bartholomew has made the move upstairs to 140. You look at the champions, you're talking about Jose Ramirez, you're talking about Josh Taylor. The idea that Devin would integrate himself into that weight class makes his name being tied to those names an eventuality, a matter of time. And I am not sure here and now that he has proven enough at 135 that he is prepared for what 140 has to offer. In all honesty, I think that Devin has more work to do at 135, even if it's not against Vasyl Lomachenko, even if it's not against Ryan Garcia. There are other fights out there for him. If Devin Haney so decides to stay at 135, he could see himself fighting the winner of Campbell versus Fortuna. Because as we all know, Devin Haney is a champion in recess. He gets a crack at that green belt whenever he wants it. So why not wait out that fight and get that green belt? I'm telling you, it might prove to be a lot harder to get a belt at 140 than 135. But if you stay at 135, you can get that one back. Or at minimum, you have a better chance of getting that one back. That is, than winning a belt from someone at 140. I mean, what are you telling me? That you think that Devin Haney is ready for Josh Taylor?
Huh?
That you think that Devin Haney is ready for Jose Ramirez? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Huh?
That he's more ready for them than the winner of Campbell versus Fortuna? I don't think so. Look, I'm a fan of Devin Haney's boxing. I think that this kid has limitless potential, but whether or not that potential is realized all hinges on how he navigates his career. And at 140 pounds, I'm just not sure he's cut out to be up there yet, because he still has unfinished business and things to prove at 135. You're going to 140 chasing around who? Fights with who? Mikey Garcia? Mikey Garcia's next fight is in the welterweight division this upcoming weekend. That's where he is. And what he has his sights set on is a Pacquiao fight, assuming he makes his way past Jesse Vargas. So Mikey's not actually on the table for you. And if he's not on the table for you at 140 pounds, who is? What are you going to be doing? You got a better chance of making a name for yourself at 135, and what fighters move up and into 135 than a chance at doing anything at 140, because I reiterate, those fighters that fight up there are more mature-rated fighters than Devin Haney is here today. Understand, I'm a fan of this kid, I like his boxing, and I think he has limitless potential, but it really all hinges on how he's navigated as to whether or not that potential will result into something. You hit the gas a little bit too fast, you might derail this kid. I mean, you might. And that would be a great tragedy. Because this kid, he's the goods. He's got what it takes to be the next generation's elite pound-for-pound fighter. He's that kind of prospect, that kind of contender, that kind of, now, champion in recess. You know, so I don't really like the idea of Devin going to 140 pounds. Not for Mikey Garcia, not for Adrian Broner. I don't think it's time for that move yet. I understand that Bill and Devin may be frustrated because they spent some time lining themselves up for a Vasyl-Lomachenko fight, and they didn't get that fight. And Ryan Garcia, you know, yeah, Ryan has Devin on his radar, but he's not on his immediate to-do list. His immediate to-do list involves fighting Jorge Linares, Gervonta Davis, and then a Devin Haney fight. In that time, a year may have passed. So I understand where they are coming from, but I don't think those fights and those fights alone not happening is reason enough to move up to 140. I don't think 140 has anything for Devin here and now. So, you know, that's just one man's opinion. Feel free to disagree. And finally, per a tweet from Mike Kopinger, source, David Benavidez set to defend his 168-pound title versus Caleb Truax, the former IBF champion, on April 18th on Showtime. Benavidez regained the title with a victory over Anthony Durrell in September. Truax, a former champion, was slated to fight Peter Quillen last August, but suffered an Achilles tendon injury. And unbeknownst to most, Caleb Truax was actually in action early this year, in January.
The 25th.
In a small card over there in Minneapolis against a guy named David Basayame Kamekamehameha. He's fighting that guy. Unheralded opponent. Tune-up kind of fight. And, you know, Caleb Truax, he won the fight.
Coming off a win.
And I don't think this is a bad fight per se in terms of an aesthetic, because Caleb is an aggressive puncher. He's a rough and tumble kind of guy, and we know that David Benavidez, he's a guy who also likes to punch. He can be very aggressive as well. So in terms of an aesthetic, this makes for a good fight, albeit a smaller fight on a smaller scale. I do think that this will be an entertaining fight for those in attendance and those watching at home. It's just that hearing the name of David Benavidez in association with a Caleb, some might have expected that the Caleb he'd be fighting wouldn't be Caleb Truax, but Caleb Plant. I myself had no expectations of seeing that fight being either of those two guys' very next fight.
Nope.
Those of you might recall that, you know, sometime last week, these two guys, they were trading words via social media. They had their heated debate. You know, and both guys, they were saying things along the lines of they're willing to fight each other next.
Remember?
And I saw this talk, though it didn't convince me that that's how things were going to happen, that that's how this was going to break down. I don't know, maybe we see this fight between Caleb Plant and David Benavidez perhaps late this year, if at all.
Maybe.
I mean, I understand that not that long ago, both of these guys had open dance cards because Caleb had just taken care of Vincent Fagenboots, and David Benavidez's next opponent, well, that opponent had yet to be announced. So there actually was a window of opportunity to orchestrate a fight between them. It's just that, in a very general sense, you've got to look at what happened this past weekend and realize how it affects the PBC as a company and their stable of fighters, what they have to do moving forward to survive, to stay in the conversation, the running with all the other game in town. One of their biggest names just took a crushing loss, a crushing defeat. That was Deontay Wilder, a guy who was a big part of their bottom line.
Still is.
A more established guy than either Caleb Plant or David Benavidez. And with the PBC stable being what it is, their company policy of keeping as much in-house as possible, you got to realize that they're going to build up and marinate whatever they can marinate because they don't have that much to go around. They're not going to just give you David Benavidez and Caleb Plant in a jiffy. They're not going to do that. They've got to build that up and build them up. It's for this reason, in unison with Samson Lukawicz's comments. Samson Lukawicz, who handles the career of David Benavidez, he let it be known that they're not looking to have that fight, or at least he's not looking to make that fight this year. Need more time to get ready. I mean, that's per him, not me. Make of that what you will. That in spite of what David was saying via social media, his handler was saying something else. So I didn't have any expectations of seeing that unification fight being their very next fight. I didn't. Mixed feelings about it not being the very next fight because, you know, you got David saying one thing, you got Samson saying another, and both guys had an open dance card. So yeah, you could have made the fight, but I guess, you know, it's not that important to you. They want to build it up. It is what it is. amongst the hardcores like me and you, a fight between Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, that fight might seem long overdue. But that's to me and you. To the people at the PBC, that fight's not ready yet. Least of all now that one of their more well-established champions is no longer a champion, and he's basically on the rebound, you know? They're not just going to give away that kind of a fight between Plant and Benavidez, given the hit that their company just took. They're not going to do that. So don't hold your breath for that fight happening no time soon. And you know what? I dare say that it affects fights like Crawford versus Spence as well. That would be a cross-promotional, cross-network fight, the same way that this weekend's fight was a cross-promotional, cross-network fight. That even if the numbers come back for the pay-per-view, even if the numbers come back and they're good numbers, PBC got the short end of the stick. You know, their guy is the guy that got squashed, the guy that got crushed, the guy that got embarrassed. So that's going to put them in a position to where they're not going to be in any kind of hurry to make that kind of a fight, not given what just took place, not till they can sort themselves out. And while a Plant versus Benavidez fight is not a cross-promotional, cross-network fight, it's an in-house fight with two in-house fighters, the PBC is not in a position to where they can simply give that fight away. Now, you know, they've got to take stock of what they got and build that up, because a big part of their bottom line just took a loss. They've got to sort themselves out, lick their wounds, and recover from them. Like I said, they're going to spend some time building up both David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. What I do find curious is that David Benavidez's fight is being rumored to end up on Showtime, whereas, you know, Caleb Plant, his fights have been on Fox. He's getting seen, that guy, you know. He's getting ratings. I wonder why David isn't, you know, being put to fight on Fox as well, so that he can get the exposure that Caleb is getting.
Yeah, why not?
Showtime, it's only going to be a limited number of people that watch that Benavidez-Truax fight. That's just the reality of it. You don't get the views on Showtime that you get on Fox. And if you want to build up the fight, then that's what David needs to be fighting. The relationship still seems to exist between the PBC and Showtime, although how much longer that relationship will exist is in question. When Showtime can't do for PBC's guys what Fox can do, that's another reality that people just have to accept. But yeah, I don't think the Benavidez versus Truax fight, I don't think it's a bad fight. It's just that, you know, when I heard the name of David Benavidez, it brought me back to what was going on before this weekend's fight, which captivated all of our attention. You know, it's almost like it kind of wiped everything else from our minds. And this jogged my memory that, you know, these guys, they were going at each other not that long ago. But I guess that I was right to not expect that to be the next fight. So, you know, no surprises there.